Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and welcome to today's CAIR on Air. I'm Ayana Arjeen, the Communications Manager at CAIR National, and I'm joined with my colleague, Megan Fair. How are you, Megan?
Doing fair. How are you?
I'm good.
Great.
Megan, I'll let you introduce yourself and your position at CAIR.
Fantastic. Well, my name is Megan Fair. I work in the grants administration as well as the civil rights coordinator. So I get to engage with our chapters all over the country and helping to support them do their really important civil rights advocacy work.
And we actually have in our program today, we are speaking to someone from one of the CAIR chapters at CAIR Florida. Today's program, we're going to be talking about it's going to be kind of like how we talk about know your rights. We've done a lot of programs where we bring on attorneys to speak about, knowing your rights in various spaces. In today's know your rights is a little different because we're actually going to talk about past and current cases that we're working on, our civil rights cases, and how we can learn our rights through those cases and through what women have endured and what CAIR has helped them with, and how we know from those incidents that we don't need to endure the same thing and when to stand up for ourselves. First, we're going to bring on both of our guests right now. First, we have Zana Ganawanji from CAIR National. She's one of our attorneys. How are you, Zana?
Good. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. And we also have Rania from CAIR Florida. She's the Programs and Outreach Director. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, doing well. How are you, ladies?
Alhamdulillah. So we wanted to hear from both of you guys about the cases that you're working on, or the cases that your chapters are working on, and like I said, how we can learn about our rights from those cases, from the violations that happen in those cases. So Zana, we're going to start with you. Megan, would you like to ask Zana the first question?
For sure. And I really just want us to, really acknowledge the bravery of these women, right? To come forward and really advocate for themselves and for their rights, and for CAIR to be there to support them is so important. And we really want to lift that up as an example and a model for others. So I'm really looking forward to today's discussion and getting to hear more about these women and the work that CAIR has done to help empower them and lift up those voices. CAIR has defended the rights of Muslim women to wear hijab at the workplace and in public spaces. And I was wondering, Zaina, if you'd be able to tell us a little bit about some of the women that CAIR has supported in defending their rights to wear hijab.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to piggyback off of you first to just explain, yes, these women who come forward are extremely brave and strong, and we actually don't have the ability to pursue complaints of discrimination unless someone is willing to come forward and be vocal about what they went through. So we really appreciate all the strong women that we represent who are helping make positive changes to civil rights. But we have loads of cases where we're representing Muslim women in places of employment and public accommodation. My favorite case that I'm working on right now is actually an employment discrimination lawsuit in Delaware, where we're representing 3 Delaware Muslim women who worked as security guards for the Delaware Department of Services for Youth, Family, and Children. It's a really long title. But essentially, these women worked at a facility, actually different facilities under that department, where they were security guards. The facilities had policy prohibiting headgear. Their policy stated that if you needed a religious exemption, you needed to request one. And for some reason, when all of our clients requested exemptions to be able to wear their hijabs, they were denied. The facility cited safety risks, despite the fact that they didn't really engage in a back and forth with our clients to see if they could reasonably accommodate them. They didn't cite the specific safety risks related to the specific ways in which these women wear hijab. Let's not forget Muslim women wear hijab in different ways, and hijab can mean many different things. And so this kind of blanket denial based on the fact that all hijabs pose safety risks is completely unreasonable and without merit. We even have a client who wanted to wear a turban, and some of our clients wanted to wear head caps instead, to work with the employer, and they were denied those as well, which is absolutely ridiculous. We had to file a lawsuit. We continue to get complaints from those facilities regarding the same exact issues, which is unfortunate. But all these women have been really brave in coming forward because they were essentially in a position where they either had to accept that they had to work without their hijabs. Women who, these clients specifically, really needed employment. They had family support. They had children to support. One of our clients was a single mother at the time that she contacted us. They really need their jobs, and so they were in a position where, okay, I can either go to work without my hijab, I need this job, I don't know what else to do, or I can complain and fight back and risk termination. And all of these women were forced to leave because they chose to follow their faith. And that's really unfortunate that they had to sacrifice their livelihoods. So that's one of the cases we're working on. And before I get into another case, I just want to know if you guys have any questions about that. I can't understate how fun this case is for me, how much I love it and how much I love our clients.
I remember when we had one of the clients on, we've brought them on this program before actually, and it was just hearing her talk about her case. It was, and honestly, anytime we bring on a client, just hearing it from their perspective, it's so, like, the personal aspect of it, like it hurts your heart, like, because they make it so, you really get a look at how it affected them and their family, and honestly, even their mental health of, like, because it's like an internal war, right? Like they have to go through this every day, knowing that, how long do we spend at work every day, and knowing that they're in a space that's not accepting them for something that they hold very, like, dear, right? So thank you for speaking on that. And if the audience wants to hear it directly from those ladies, we actually have the program if you go through our past videos. But then when you said security risk, that did remind me of also another case where, like, the gun range case, because I remember that, like, that word stands out to me because they also told her, security risk, you can't be here with that. So it's just interesting, like, the excuses that are given.
Yeah, I mean, that excuse seems to be something that I'm hearing very often with regards to hijab and Muslim women, which is unfortunate. We have a public accommodation discrimination case where our client wears a hijab. Her husband took her to a gun range that he had frequented before. She waited in line. It was New Year's Day. It was really busy. They got to the counter and she was told, hey, if you want to go shoot, you have to remove your hijab because we have a policy banning headgear. But for some reason, the policy had an exemption for baseball caps. I'm unclear why. They said that the hijab poses a safety risk in that the hijab could catch on fire if a bullet casing hit it. I don't know if you guys have gone to a gun range before. I have. My clothing has never caught on fire. My hair has never caught on fire. And to the contrary, the client's husband argued people go to the gun range and wear protective clothing so that if a gun casing hits you, you're not harmed in any way. And I've also been hit by gun casings, and I don't know, I was failing to understand the security risk. So that was really unfortunate. We tried to, we sent a letter to the gun range and we said, hey, what you're doing is illegal. Your policy has impacted countless Muslim women, and there are loads of reviews against the gun range by Muslim women who have been unable to be accommodated there because of their hijabs. And mind you, our client went to a gun range the next day with her hijab and was able to shoot with her hijab, and they told her that her hijab did not pose a safety risk. So, I mean, we tried to work with the gun range. They didn't really understand why they violated the law. I think it's really clear. It's sad that they didn't want to work with us to accommodate these Muslim women, and now Muslim women can't shoot at their facility. We're hoping to take additional action in the future. We're kind of assessing options right now. But that is definitely another interesting case. We don't really often hear about a lot of my cases regard employment discrimination. So when I get a case that's in another place, I'm like, this is kind of cool. I don't know. I don't want to bore everyone by continuing to talk about employment discrimination. I could do that all day. It's like my favorite topic. So.
Well, thank you, Zana, for sharing. We also want to hear a little bit from Rania. And I know, Rania, the cases that you're going to talk to us about today, they're actually not employment discrimination. They're a little different because they go beyond just the right to wear hijab. There are situations where we've seen women actually, like, their hijabs have been removed. Right. So not just like someone telling them you can't wear that here, but literally physically taking it off. So can you tell us a little bit about the incidents that your chapter has seen?
Definitely. Thank you, ladies. First of all, I'm not bored, and it's I love when she's saying the cases are fun and she loves working on them. I think because she loves giving the organization so much trouble and pushback for that. So that's great. Yeah, the cases that I want to speak about that CAIR Florida has worked on, and unfortunately they're not new, right? These are cases that we've had very similar ones in past years, and we see them just continuing. And they're cases of hijab, unfortunately, being forcibly removed from Muslim women. And typically this happens when Muslim women are arrested. So it's important first, for people to understand that Muslim women, like any woman, can be arrested, for any number of reasons. It could be because an infraction has occurred. It could be a case of mistaken identity. In past cases that have CAIR Florida is aware of, it's something as simple as an unpaid parking ticket. And most recently, a case that we're working on, someone who's at a protest. So first of all, them being arrested is not an indication of wrongdoing. But unfortunately, during the process, sometimes what we see is that during the process of booking, the woman's hijab is forcibly removed. And this is, incredibly unfortunate because, like you mentioned, AN, it's not just a matter of, choice that at least you can, leave, or at least you can have a course of action. You're being physically, challenged, and it's being removed from you. And some of the cases have definitely been very traumatic. We're also, I'd like to protect the privacy. One of them is ongoing of these individuals, but you can imagine how traumatic it is that someone is taking your choice away from you, right? Is taking your hijab off of your head, part of your identity. And then in some cases that we have, you're sitting with men that you don't know. A picture may be leaked to the public, and you may be dealing with harassment. So something that's very deeply traumatic. And this has happened, like I said, multiple cases over the years that CAIR Florida has seen. So this is something that we all have to be aware of. When we say know your rights, as you opened with, AN, you have constitutional rights to practice your faith, whether or not, even if you're in custody, you still have that right to practice your faith, and you still have the right to not have your hijab physically removed. Now, one thing that we do is sometimes, because we see this, as well as Zana said, in the policy, that it could be there for a number of reasons, policy reasons. So one thing that CAIR Florida does is we offer policy reviews for religious accommodation anytime we go through one of these cases. And we actually had some really, really uplifting and hopeful news that recently in Duval County, we worked with a jail, and it took months and months of back and forth. And we really credit Hibba Rahim, our Muslim inmate advocacy coordinator, and our law clerk, Ala Adin, and so many others from our team. But working with the institution back and forth over a course of months to actually change their religious accommodation policy. So now in their jail in this county, when a Muslim woman is arrested and booked, there will be 2 photos of her taken, one with her hijab kept on, and that's the photo that, if it has to be publicly released, that's the photo that will be released. If a photo has to be taken with her hijab off, if it has to be taken, it will be done not in the company of any men, so it will only be done in the company of women. It will be kept in a confidential file, and it will be kept in a confidential file, and then that won't be released. So working with institutions to actually change their policy so we don't have to worry about cases coming up, but they have, a rule of thumb. And that's a service that we've offered, many institutions, that we're happy to review your policy. We're happy to provide you a template for how to move forward, because people shouldn't have to choose between, practicing their religion, and that should never be threatened no matter where you are and no matter what your circumstances.
Rania, thank you. It's really powerful to hear about how you can take such a traumatic experience and transform that into change that can impact other people's experiences in those systems. So it's really beautiful to see that you all have been able to do that in Florida, and I'm hopeful that we can see that all over the country and see those policy changes all over the country.
And in Florida, because there's still a long way to work. That was just one, one county. But obviously, yeah, we're still trying to spread that as far as we can. Thank you.
Yeah. So start in Florida, but then we'll spread everywhere. Fantastic. Zaina, I wanted to go back to you briefly. You had talked a little bit about Muslim women's experiences at work. And are there other other cases you've been working on in relation to perhaps harassment or things not related to hijabs directly?
Yeah, so the fact of the matter is we represent a lot of Muslim women who wear hijab. When you wear the hijab, you're visibly Muslim. It's really difficult to hide your identity. And so Muslim women, unfortunately, who cover are always facing the brunt of discrimination. And that's absolutely so upsetting. But, it's not just refusal to accommodate the hijab. Muslim women can experience harassment, including sexual harassment, because they're Muslim, because they choose to cover, because they're women. We can't forget that, being Muslim and being a woman, those are two different protected classes that intersect and shape our experiences and shape the extent to which Muslim women experience discrimination. And often being both Muslim and a woman can exacerbate the discrimination, which is really sad, but something that's really important for our community to understand, and other communities as well. I have a case with a Muslim woman who was working at, she was a manager at a McDonald's at Baltimore Washington International Airport. She converted to Islam after she started working there, and so she started to cover, she started to wear the hijab, and so her identity as a Muslim woman became known at work, and she was subjected to severe sexual harassment. We always hear stories, or Muslim women are often, sometimes, not always, but sometimes portrayed media-wise as not, there's the threat aspect of you're a Muslim and you're seen as a threat, but then there is the aspect of I'm going to fetishize the fact that you're a Muslim woman and your hijab and you're so mysterious and what's under there. Those sentiments, those very misogynistic sentiments that we've heard before. And so that was what was going on with her. I'm not going to say the specific comments because they're quite vulgar, unfortunately, and disturbing, but she'd been questioned about the fact that, Muslims don't have premarital sexual relations and all the implications that come with that, and the way that her body must look under the hijab and all her coverings. And it's so horrible. I can't even elaborate on the extent to which the comments were offensive, because I would need to say those comments and I'm just not comfortable at all. But what she went through is not just denial of accommodations. She was denied the ability to pray also, which was unfortunate, but she was also harassed because of her sex, because of her religion as a Muslim woman. This is one of those cases where we filed an employment discrimination complaint. We had also sent a letter to the employer notifying them about the harassment so they could take action. They did not. After we finished the administrative process, we filed a lawsuit because the employer was just not willing to kind of resolve those complaints. And so right now we're in litigation. We're really excited. Our client is really strong and she's put up with so much. And we're just really excited to represent her. And I can't understate or overstate, I don't know which one it is, but it's really important that, we have Muslim women who are willing to come forward, because when you come forward, we have the ability to file a complaint and then a lawsuit, and then we can get case law that improves the situation for Muslim women. We can change policies in the area. We can, get those companies to institute religious sensitivity trainings, anti-harassment trainings, to provide religious accommodation policies. And by the way, most employers have to have a religious accommodation policy. There are few exceptions for that, but you do have a right to religious accommodations in the workplace, and you have a right to be free from harassment. So we really appreciate all the women that come forward, with those complaints who are willing to take action.
Yeah, and I think like some of the examples that Anya gave before of the actual like policy change that we're able to see from like as we take action, right? So that's really hopeful. But something else that I want to bring up is that this kind of like I see this as it basically boils down to like allowing spaces for representation, and by making sure that women are comfortable wearing their hijab in like any public space, in the workplace, in those environments. So Rania, to you, I want to know, what do you think of this type of why is this type of representation important? And could you give us some examples of what representation like this can lead to?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two things I want to touch on. The first, that yes, I mean, very often it's when Muslim women wear hijab because they're so visibly Muslim that they're especially vulnerable. But like you said, Ayan, as well, when they have that representation, it makes things so much easier as well. But we know that Muslim women are so diverse and so different. Some of us wear hijab, some of us don't. And so what I wanted to touch upon is that so often when we speak about civil rights, we're focused on protecting people's rights, responding to cases of discrimination, responding to hate crimes. And that's so important. And unfortunately, it's happening more and more. But also the flip side of that is the work that we do to be proactive in ensuring people's civil rights are protected, and doing education work that really promotes building bridges of tolerance and understanding. So, two areas that help promote this representation for women is when we do, for example, Islam 101s. So not only do we do the Know Your Rights so that Muslim women are empowered, but we build bridges with people to do Islam 101 so that they know what a Muslim woman looks like, right? They know what her values are. They know when she wears hijab, why she's wearing it, and then maybe they're less likely, to take on an instance of discrimination like we've been hearing. And that could be, working with educators, right? The primarily females who are cultivating our students. If they can understand more about Islam, more about their students' needs, then they're going to empower their students, and they're going to empower Muslim women more. And then just increasing the positive representation that we see. Whenever we find it, we need to amplify it and we need to uplift it. We all know the studies that say that Islam is more negatively portrayed in the media than cocaine and cancer and North Korea. And so we have to actively work against that, even if it's in small ways. So CAIR Florida, just I think 2 weeks ago, we had on our social lunch hour a young Muslim woman, 18 years old, Aliyah Shipman, and she's a Taekwondo Olympian. So she's headed to the Olympics, right, as we speak, in Taekwondo. And what a positive example she is, to other Muslim women, both young and not young, even for, for myself, that if you really work at something, you work at your trade, you can excel in it. So we need to provide that positive representation, and we need to also, work to make sure that if something negative does happen, we're definitely going to defend and support our Muslim and non-Muslim sisters. But we're also doing a lot of things right, and we also need to celebrate our achievements. Even the four of us, mashallah, like civil rights activists, I think we are paving the way for Muslim women to come after us as well, and that's something that we should recognize and be proud of and grateful for, of course, alhamdulillah.
Thank you, Rania. Yeah, I think I really like the example you just gave of the what did you say, Taekwondo, what?
She's an Olympian. She's on her way to the Olympics. Yeah, it's amazing.
And I remember we've spoken before about Noor. I don't remember where she was from, but the Run Like Noor. Do you guys remember that?
She was from Ohio.
Yeah, and Megan, you're from.
Hey.
But yeah, like just seeing people in positions like that are wearing the hijab and like owning it, right? It just kind of it makes you feel like it's acceptable to be in those places. So it's really good to see like that kind of representation. But thank you both for coming on and talking to us about the cases you're working on. Thank you for working on those cases. And Megan, do you have anything else that you would like to ask them?
Well, I actually just wanted to follow up with a quick plug for our She Is campaign. But first, thank Rania and Zaina for sharing with us today. It was really powerful and really a beautiful opportunity to hear about some strong women who are standing up for their rights and having a long-term impact on society, which is great to hear. And just as a bit of a plug, but directly related, CAIR is running a She Is campaign this month. So it's a video campaign in which we're encouraging people to send in 90-second videos that are highlighting the women that inspire you. And so like the women that we've heard today, if there are other women in your life that have inspired you, we encourage you to create that video and send it to us on any of our social media platforms. And we will be sharing those videos throughout the month to really lift up the voices and the stories of women that maybe we don't necessarily hear about every day.
We also have, like, you can look on our social medias and we have the instructions, like a little video, a TikTok video instruction of that. I'm not going to play it here because that's awkward because it's me giving the instructions, but I want to plug something if you're plugging something. We have this event on Thursday in honor of International Women's Day, which was yesterday. We're hosting a panel on Thursday. We're going to be talking about women working globally. So inshallah, Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, that should be live on our Facebook and YouTube pages.
Thank you, Ayan. Zaina, Rania, any final thoughts?
No, thanks for having us on.
Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So tune in to the Thursday program, and inshallah we'll be back here next Tuesday for another Women's History Month discussion like this.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone.